Welcome to Lento English. Ready to level up your English? Here we learn through stories, slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
1. Introduction. Spain is a country in Europe. It is famous for many things. Its sunny weather, its delicious food like tapas, its music like flamenco, and its rich history. When people think of Spain, they often picture lively cities or busy beaches along the coast. Cities like Madrid, the capital, and Barcelona, a big city by the sea, are full of energy, noise, and many people. The coastal areas are also very popular places to live and visit. They are vibrant and active. However, Spain is a large country, and it has a different side that many people do not know. Beyond the busy cities and the popular coast, there are vast areas of land where very few people live. You can travel for a long time through beautiful landscapes, past mountains and fields, and see only a few small villages or sometimes no houses at all. These parts of Spain are quiet, sometimes surprisingly quiet. They feel empty compared to the cities. This contrast is very strong. Spain has many people in total, but almost all of them live in a small area of the country. A big part of Spain, about 70% of the land, has only a small number of people. Less than 10% of all the people in Spain live in this large area. This phenomenon is often called empty Spain. It is a big difference from many other countries in Europe. This emptiness has important effects on the country. Why is such a large part of Spain so empty? Why do most people live in just 30% of the land? What are the reasons for this big difference? This is a complex issue, and there is no single simple answer. Many things have happened over time to create this situation. In this book, we will explore empty Spain. We will look at the different reasons why so few people live in these large areas. We will examine the geography of the country, like its mountains. We will look at the history, including important events that changed where people lived. We will see how people have moved from the countryside to the cities. We will try to understand the challenges faced by the places that are losing people and what this means for the future of Spain. This book will explain this important topic in a clear and neutral way, helping you learn about this surprising part of Spain. 2. Spain's two sides. Spain is a country with a modern feel and a strong place in the world economy. It is one of the wealthiest countries, with a large economy valued at over 1.7 trillion US dollars. Spain is the 15th largest economy globally. More than 48 million people live in Spain. The country has also invested heavily in transport, building the second longest network of high-speed rail lines in the world, after China. This impressive network links the major cities, making travel fast and easy between places like Madrid and the coastal regions. However, looking at a map of where people live shows a very different picture. Spain is a large country, much bigger than many others in Europe. It is nearly 4 times the size of England, for example. But England has 9 million more people than Spain. This means that per square kilometer, England has many more people. The population density in England is more than 4.5 times higher than in Spain. This difference in density is very clear. This is because most people in Spain live in specific areas. They live in the big cities found along the coasts, both on the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. Many also live in the capital city, Madrid, which is in the center. The large areas of land between Madrid and the coasts have very few people. This creates a pattern that some people call a population donut. The edges and the center are full, but the large area in the middle is quite empty. This situation clearly shows Spain's two very different sides. One side is the populated and developed part. This is where 90% of the Spanish population lives. That is more than 42 million people. These people live on just 30% of Spain's total land area. This part includes the busy cities, the modern buildings, and the main economic activities. The other side is the empty and often less developed part. Only 10% of the Spanish population lives here. This is about 4.7 million people, but they live on a huge area of land, covering the remaining 70% of the country. This vast area has much lower population density. Visually, the difference is striking. It means that while some parts of Spain are very busy and modern, large parts of the country are quiet and have different challenges. 3. Big empty places. Spain has large areas where very few people live. These areas are sometimes called empty Spain. They cover about 70% of the country's land. In this large part of Spain, the number of people per square kilometer is very low. The average is about 18 people for every square kilometer. This is much lower than in the busy cities and coastal areas. It is also very low for a country in Western Europe. But within these big empty areas, some parts are even more empty. One clear example is a region called the Serrania Celtibérica. This region is located in the middle of Spain, across several provinces. It is a large area of land. To understand its size, imagine the state of West Virginia in the United States. The Serrania Celtibérica is about the same size. It is also similar in size to the country of Ireland. However, the population living in this big area is very small. There are just a little more than 500,000 people who live there. Because the area is so big and the population is so small, the population density is extremely low. The average density in the Serrania Celtibérica region is only about 8 people for each square kilometer. This low density makes the Serrania Celtibérica the second most sparsely populated region in the entire European Union. It has fewer people per square kilometer than other less populated areas in Europe, such as European Russia or the Scottish Highlands. The only region in the European Union that has fewer people per square kilometer is Lapland. Lapland is in the northern part of Scandinavia, reaching into the Arctic Circle. In Lapland, the density is even lower, between 2 and 5 people per square kilometer. This means the Serrania Celtibérica is almost as empty as a place much further north and with a colder climate like Lapland. Because of this, some people sometimes call the Serrania Celtibérica the Spanish Lapland. The region feels very remote compared to other parts of Western Europe. Many villages and small towns in the Serrania Celtibérica are far from big cities. If you live in most of the small communities there, about 3 out of every 4 villages or towns, you must travel a long distance to reach the nearest city. This journey takes more than 45 minutes by car. This shows how isolated these places can be. The low population density, the extreme emptiness of regions like the Serrania Celtiberica, and the remoteness of its villages are key features of Spain's big empty places. These details help paint a picture of the large areas of Spain that are very different from the busy parts that most people know. 4. Mountains and land. Spain has a lot of land, but not all of it is easy to live on. A big reason for this is the mountains. Spain is a very mountainous country. There are high places all over the land. One important group of mountains is called the Iberian System. These mountains go through the middle of Spain, but there are other mountain ranges too. In the northwest, you can find the Cantabrian Mountains. Along the border with France, there are the Pyrenees Mountains. In the middle of the country, there is the Central System, and in the southeast, there is the Betic System. These mountains make it difficult to build cities and towns everywhere. The land is steep and hard to build on. It also makes travel harder in some areas. Because of all these mountains, Spain has a high average elevation. This means the land is higher above the sea than in many other countries in Europe. Spain has the second highest average elevation in the European Union. Only Austria is higher on average because of the Alps mountains. The mountains are a big part of why some areas in Spain have few people. They limit where people can live easily. However, mountains are not the only reason for the low population in some parts of Spain. Other countries have many mountains but have more people living there. For example, Austria and Switzerland are both more mountainous than Spain on average. But these countries have more people living per square kilometer than Spain does. So while the mountains play a role in making some areas less easy to live in and build on, they do not explain everything about why large parts of Spain have so few people. Other factors are also important. 5. Old times, big problems. History is very important to understand why many parts of Spain have few people today. Events from the past, especially over the last century, changed the country a lot and led to big problems for rural areas. One major event was the Spanish Civil War. This conflict took place between 1936 and 1939. It was a devastating time for Spain. The fighting caused immense destruction and sadness across the country. Around 500,000 people died during these 3 years. The war deeply hurt Spanish society and its economy, leaving it in a very weak state. After the war ended, Francisco Franco became the leader. He established a government that ruled for a very long time, from 1939 until his death in 1975. This period lasted for 36 years. It was a time of strict control and limited freedoms for the Spanish people. During these decades under Franco, Spain was often isolated from other countries in the world. It did not join important international groups for many years. The government initially focused on making Spain self-sufficient, but this policy, along with the damage from the war, meant the economy stayed weak and did not grow much for a long time. There was little development or new jobs available in most places. Life was hard for many Spaniards during this period. People faced political difficulties, as certain freedoms were limited. They also faced significant economic hardship, finding it difficult to earn money and live well. These problems were often worse in the rural parts of the country, the small villages and farming areas, far from the few bigger cities that had some activity. Because of these political and economic problems, many people felt they had no choice but to leave their homes in the countryside. There was a large movement of people, an exodus from these areas. They hoped to find better opportunities and a better life in cities in Spain or even outside of Spain. This happened for many years, causing a significant emigration from rural areas as people searched for work and freedom that was hard to find at home. This long period of difficulty, starting with the Civil War and continuing through decades of economic stagnation, political control, and limited opportunities in the countryside, caused millions of people to leave their homes. This historical process is a major reason why many rural parts of Spain lost their population over time and still have few people living there today. These old times truly created big and lasting problems for these areas, leaving them with fewer people and less activity. 6. A new start for some. In 1959, a new plan for Spain's economy began. This plan was very important. It helped Spain's economy grow quickly and become more modern. Many new businesses and factories started. Money from other countries came to invest in Spain. This caused some parts of the country to grow very fast. These growing areas were mainly the big cities, like Madrid in the center and Barcelona on the coast. Areas along the northern and southern coasts also saw much growth. In these growing places, there were many new jobs. Life in the small towns and villages in the countryside was often hard. There were not many jobs there. So, millions of people from the rural areas decided to move. They went to the cities and the busy coastal areas to find work and a better life. This was a huge movement of people. It is often called a rural exodus, meaning people leaving the countryside in large numbers. Because so many people moved, the countryside began to change a lot. The villages and small towns had fewer and fewer people. They did not get the same new businesses or money as the cities. The government and businesses put their focus and money into the areas that were growing fast. The countryside was not developed in the same way. Slowly, these rural areas became less important and started to lose their people and services. This time showed how quickly Spain was becoming an industrial country. For example, in 1946, after the Civil War, there were only about 72,000 private cars in Spain. But just 20 years later, in 1966, there were over 1 million cars. This shows how fast things were changing in daily life and the economy. Spain's economy grew very, very fast in the 1960s. It was the second fastest growing economy in the world at that time, after Japan. This fast growth changed where people lived and worked across the country. It created a new start and new opportunities for many people who moved to the growing cities and coasts. However, for the parts of Spain that people left, this period was difficult. The small towns and villages lost many young people who were looking for work. These areas became quieter and had fewer people. This big move from the country to the city is a main reason why large parts of Spain are empty today. It was a time of big change, bringing a new life for some, but leaving other places behind with fewer people and less activity. 7. People come and go. After 1975, things changed in Spain. Many Spanish people who had left the country to live and work in other places came back home. This was a new time for Spain. These people who returned often chose to live in the big cities or in the areas near the coast. These were the places that had grown a lot in the years before. They did not go back to their small villages in the countryside as much. Then from the 1990s, Spain saw something else that was new. Many people from other countries started to arrive and live in Spain. This was the first time in a long time that so many people came to Spain from abroad. These new people came for different reasons, often to find work and have a better life. They came from countries near and far. Like the Spanish people who returned, these new people from other countries also mostly moved to the places where there were more jobs. This meant they went to the big cities like Madrid and Barcelona and to the busy areas on the coast. They settled in the parts of Spain that were already full of people. Because of people returning and people coming from other countries, Spain's total population grew. However, this growth was not the same everywhere. In many parts of the countryside, in the small towns and villages, the number of people did not grow. In fact, in many of these areas, the population continued to get smaller. So even though more people were living in Spain, they were nearly all going to the same places. The cities and coastal areas became even more populated. The areas in the middle of Spain, the rural parts, stayed empty or became even emptier. People came and went, but the empty areas often remained empty. 8. What next for empty Spain? We have seen how Spain has big cities and empty lands. Many things from the past caused people to move away from the countryside. But what about the future? What needs to happen for empty Spain? One important thing is about people being born. Spain has a very low number of babies born compared to other countries in Europe. This is a big problem for the population. When not many babies are born and people leave, the population gets smaller. Some people say the government does not give much help to families with children. Compared to many countries in Western Europe, Spain spends little money to help families. This makes it harder for people to have children. Look at a place like the province of Teruel. A province is a large area like a state. Teruel is in the empty part of Spain. Many people left Teruel a long time ago to find work. Now, Teruel has only about half the people it had 100 years ago. Life in small villages there can be hard. The winters are cold and some places have only basic things. Also, there is not much money spent on important things like roads and internet in places like Teruel. 40% of the people who still live in Teruel do not have fast internet. The train in Teruel is very slow. It travels at only 30 kilometers every hour. People even saw a tractor go faster than this train on a video. This is very different from big cities like Madrid, which has fast internet and trains that go much faster. This creates a bad situation that goes round and round. When there is not much money spent on roads, internet, and other things, the place is not nice to live in. So people leave and move to cities. When fewer people live there, companies and the government spend even less money. The place becomes even less attractive. Then more people leave. This is the vicious cycle of empty Spain. To change this, Spain needs to do something different. The government needs to spend money in these empty areas. They need to build better roads, bring fast internet, and help create jobs. They need to make these places good and interesting to live in again. Only with new ideas and money can empty Spain maybe have more people and a better future.